Walter Cronkite and the other newsmen of yesteryear used to just deliver the news in a straightforward, matter-of-fact, non-biased manner. Me neither, because it was a long time before any of us were born. Now you see, back in the 1960s, there was only 3 major channels where people get their news, or any entertainment for that matter. It was NBC, CBS, and ABC. Now, the formula was pretty much the same. A man, and it was almost always a white man, read the basic facts from a teleprompter. See, back then, it was up to the people, the audience, to interpret the facts and form their own opinion. A far cry from today. So, how did we go from boring basic news to the screamfest that passes for journalism today? This answer lies in the documentary Best of Enemies. Debuted at Sundance in 2015 and is just now picking up traction in the mainstream and is more important than ever. So the documentary starts out surrounding the 1968 Democratic and Republican National Conventions. Now at the time, about 80% of Americans watched the convention coverage. Well, there wasn't a whole lot else on, and remember, there was no internet, kids. Now, all 3 outlets used to cover the multi-night conventions, and by coverage, it meant usually just hitting play on a camera and letting it roll. Little to no commentary from the newscasters. I know, it's mind-blowing, right? In the 1960s, Americans had the most amount of confidence in television news as far as media was concerned. The reason is that television media journalists usually tried to stay as far away from controversy as possible, because that's what reputable journalists did back then. They felt that journalists should be cementers of ideas, not disruptors of ideas. Don't worry, you read the intro right. This is a documentary, not a science fiction movie. At the time, NBC and CBS, they had Cronkite, they had these big names, and ABC had a stage that fell apart before the convention even began.
ABC, it was really, the budget car rental of television news.
This wild idea that ABC had before the 1968 conventions that would forever upend journalism on television as we know it. They had to get those ratings, they had to be provocative, they had to be engaging, and that's where Best of Enemies gets started. Now, enter the OGs of media punditry, Walter Buckley and Gore Vidal. Buckley was an Ivy League educated conservative and the editor of the National Review, which at the time was the leading conservative-leaning publication, while Vidal was a left-wing liberal who also made some pretty weird porn. That's a different story for another time. Despite their political differences, the two did share certain key variables. Both were well-spoken, both had a large following, both were considered relatively good-looking, and both, most importantly, were prepared to dive headfirst into controversy, making them the network's biggest dream team or a nightmare. So the 1968 debates were the first that were broadcast in color, and Buckley and Vidal made them more colorful than ever. Almost completely unscripted, the debate started out focusing on the convention issue, but they quickly devolved into petty personal insults about the other's ideas, party affiliation, and even sexuality. Vidal regularly hinted that he believed Buckley was a homosexual.
Do you care to read the context, or shall I cram it down?
No.
Now this is where the script takes a turn for the familiar. While Vidal wanted to paint Buckley in the National Review as racist, anti-Semitic, and elitist, Buckley attempted to paint Vidal and the liberals as deviant and perverts. So back in 1968, while Cronkite and all the other mainstream journalists were covering the debate, behind them, suits, ties, strictly factual, Vidal and Buckley went for each other's throats. And America could not get enough of it. Now, as if by design, riots broke out in both Chicago and Miami, which were the sites of the debates, giving both Buckley and Vidal an opportunity to deviate from the debates and enter into the realm of social and cultural commentary. Getting more like today, right? Now, the arguments came to a head during one heated debate in which Vidal called Buckley a Nazi, to which Buckley threatened to punch Vidal in the goddamn face before calling him a queer.
Right, to any point of view you want.
Shut up a minute.
No, I know you don't care.
As far as I'm concerned, the only sort of
pro-crypto Nazi I can think of is yourself. Failing that, I would only say that we can't have.
Now listen, you
the right of
stop
assembly
calling me
here.
a crypto Nazi.
Let's stop
or I'll
calling
slap
names
you in
and
your
let's get-
goddamn face, and
let's-
you'll stay plastered.
As you might expect, ABC's gamble paid off big time and their ratings skyrocketed. Suddenly, they jumped from being the joke of the broadcast journalism world to being the industry's top dog. Over the next decades, commentary and controversy superseded factual, unbiased journalism. As Buckley's biography notes towards the end of the documentary, argument is sugar, and the rest of us are flies. Best of Enemies shows how 1968 turned the media into a candy factory, spinning news like sugar and keeping us addicted and coming back for more.